You have always felt it, not depression, not anxiety. Something older, the sense that nothing you build ever holds. The job you fought for. It became noise. The relationship that felt like a rival. It became routine. The version of yourself you finally built. It started cracking. You blamed yourself every time. You thought, if I just tried harder, if I just wanted it more, if I just was more. But a German philosopher born in 1830 had a different explanation, and it was worse than your fault. Julius Bahnsen said, "The universe is not indifferent to your suffering. It is producing your suffering on purpose, not from cruelty, from its own structure. Not one cosmic will, as Schopenhauer said, but infinite wills, all pulling against each other, all tearing, all the time, forever." Every philosopher before him found a way to make peace with existence. Bahnsen found none. He said, "The tearing is the point." Even Nietzsche flinched. Even Schopenhauer found consolation. Bahnsen just kept following the argument, all the way down. What he found at the bottom is what this video is about. And once you see it, the noise of your daily life will rearrange itself into something you can actually use. Stay. What Bahnsen saw is the most honest account of reality that philosophy ever produced, and nobody told you it existed. Every system you were raised inside had the same operating assumption. The universe is basically on your side. Religion said, God loves you and has a purpose for your pain. Science said, things trend toward complexity and order. Self-help said, align yourself and the universe will respond. Bahnsen looked at the actual structure of existence, not the story about it, and said, none of that is true. The universe is a conflict engine. It has no arc. You have felt the gap between what you were told and what you observed. The good person who suffered. The dishonest one who thrived. The effort that led nowhere. You were told, that gap is temporary. Keep going. Karma will balance it. History bends toward justice. It does not. Bahnsen was not pessimistic because he was sad. He was precise because he was honest. There is a difference that matters enormously. The comfortable lie is that everything is moving toward something. Bahnsen's truth is that everything is moving against everything else, and that motion is permanent. Schopenhauer taught him the will, the blind force driving all life forward. Bahnsen said, it is not one will, it is infinite wills. And they are all enemies of each other. Your will against your body's will. Your body's will against your environment's will. Your environment against every other environment. Conflict all the way down to the atom. This is not a metaphor. Modern physics confirms it. Every particle in the universe is in a state of permanent tension with every other particle. Bahnsen called it in 1880. He called this the real dialectic, not Hegel's optimistic clash of ideas moving toward synthesis, a clash of forces moving toward nothing, just clash. Every ambition you have fought every other ambition you have, your desire for rest fighting your desire for achievement, your need for connection fighting your need for solitude. Bahnsen said, that internal war is not a flaw in you. It is the universe running its program through you. You are not broken. You are accurate. He made Schopenhauer look like an optimist. He made Nietzsche look like a motivational speaker. He was the end of the line, and almost no one knows his name. This video is changing that. Julius Bahnsen was born in 1830 in Tondern, Denmark, which was then part of the German Confederation. He was a soldier before he was a philosopher, and it showed in his thinking. He discovered Schopenhauer at 20. By 30, he had exceeded him. By 40, he had been forgotten by almost everyone. He taught high school for most of his career. Philosophy's most radical pessimist spent his days explaining German grammar to teenagers. The irony was not lost on him. His major work was called Zur Analyse der Wirklichkeit, towards the analysis of reality. It was dense, difficult, and almost entirely unread. Schopenhauer's inner circle found it too dark even for them. The core idea: reality is not driven by one blind will, as Schopenhauer said. It is driven by infinite individual wills, each one a self-contained force, and they are constitutionally incapable of harmony. Each will tears against every other will, your will against your body against its environment, your environment against every other environment. There is no level of reality where conflict resolves. He called this the tragic character of existence. Not tragic because it ends. Tragic because the ending never comes. The tearing just continues, indefinitely, without resolution or release. Schopenhauer offered escape through aesthetic contemplation, asceticism, denial of the will. Bahnsen said, there is no escape. The will does not rest, not in art, not in meditation, not in death. He died in 1881, largely unknown. The philosophical establishment found his conclusions intolerable, not because they were wrong, but because they were unanswerable. Bahnsen wrote, "Man is only a self-conscious nothing, yet a nothing that in its very self-consciousness is condemned to desire, to strive, and to destroy without ever arriving anywhere." Bahnsen's real dialectic is the most important idea you have never been taught. It says, opposing forces do not resolve. They persist in permanent tension. Hegel told us, thesis meets antithesis. They synthesize into something new. History progresses. Conflicts resolve. Bahnsen said, no, they do not. Look again. You know this from your own life. The conflict between who you are and who you need to be for other people. Has that resolved? Or does it just change shape? The conflict between your ambition and your exhaustion. The conflict between your need for love and your need for autonomy. These are not problems. They are the structure of being a person. The psychological research has consistently found that the most persistent source of human distress is not external events, but internal conflict, ambivalence, wanting two incompatible things simultaneously. Bahnsen says, you cannot resolve that ambivalence. You can only understand that it is not a symptom of something wrong with you. It is the universe's structure operating correctly inside you. What you can do today: identify the conflict in your life you have been trying to resolve for years. Then ask, what if this conflict is not supposed to resolve? What changes when you stop trying to end it and start learning to work inside it? The people who break are not the ones with the most conflict. They are the ones who spent all their energy fighting the existence of the conflict instead of developing the stamina to carry it. Bahnsen's definition of a human being is the most brutal and the most accurate ever written. A self-conscious nothing that is condemned to strive. Nothing, because you have no fixed nature, no essential self, no core identity that was there before the world started shaping you. Self-conscious because, unlike every other nothing in the universe, you know you are one. And that knowledge is the source of every specific human suffering. You have felt this. The moment in a conversation where you suddenly became aware of yourself having the conversation. The performance replaced the experience, condemned to strive, because the will does not stop, not when you achieve, not when you rest, not when you understand it. The striving is not a choice. It is the engine running. This is not depression. Depressed people stop striving. Bahnsen's condemned person cannot stop. They strive even when they know it leads nowhere, especially then. The psychology. Research into compulsive striving shows that the most driven individuals are rarely motivated by positive expectation. They are motivated by an inability to not move. Bahnsen described this in 1880. What you can do today: sit for 10 minutes without a goal. Now, not meditation, just purposeless sitting. Notice how the engine fights that. Notice how hard it is. That resistance is what Bahnsen mapped. You are not broken because you cannot find peace. You are built the way the universe built everything, to tear, and to strive and to tear again. The question is only what you aim the tearing at. Schopenhauer said, "Every desire satisfied gives birth to a new desire. The will is a hunger with no meal that ends it." Bahnsen said, "Worse, each will destroys others in its pursuit. The hunger is also a weapon. You have lived this, the promotion you achieved." Within a week it became the baseline. The new desire was already running before the old one finished. The relationship you finally built. And then you needed it to be different, better, more. The will inside the relationship fighting the will outside it. Bahnsen said, "This is not your failure. This is the tragic will functioning as designed. Every achievement destroys the conditions that made the achievement meaningful. The game resets. This knowledge is for protection, not destruction. Understanding the tragic will means you stop blaming yourself for the reset. You start using the reset as information instead." The psychology, hedonic adaptation, the well-documented tendency to return to a baseline of satisfaction regardless of positive or negative events, is the scientific name for what Bahnsen described philosophically. What you can do today, after your next achievement, however small, pause before moving to the next thing. Name what just happened. Let it land. Then watch the will start generating the next desire in real time. Just observe it. Do not obey it immediately. The tragic will is not evil. It built every cathedral, every bridge, every work of philosophy, including Bahnsen's own. The tragedy is only that it cannot acknowledge its own achievements. It can only move to the next conflict. That is Bahnsen's most devastating observation. Even philosophy, even this video, is the will tearing at itself to understand itself. The activity is not exempt from its own analysis. Every philosophy before Bahnsen offered something. Stoicism offered equanimity. Buddhism offered detachment. Christianity offered redemption. Bahnsen offered nothing. He said, "There is no offer." This sounds like despair. It is not. Despair still hopes for something better. Bahnsen is past hope, not because he gave up, but because he looked at the actual structure of existence with clear eyes. What Bahnsen offers instead of consolation is clarity. And clarity, it turns out, is more useful than comfort. Comfort requires the lie to hold. Clarity works regardless. You recognize this mode. You have been in it. The moment after a loss when you stopped trying to make it mean something and just dealt with what was actually in front of you. Bahnsen called this mode tragic heroism. Not the heroism of winning, the heroism of full knowledge that the structure will never change, and acting anyway, with full awareness, with no consolation prize. The psychology, research on post-traumatic growth consistently shows that the most resilient people are not the ones who believe things would get better. They are the ones who accepted that they might not, and acted anyway. What you can do today, identify one thing in your life where you have been waiting for consolation, for it to be okay, to resolve, to make sense. Then ask, what would I do if I accepted that the consolation is not coming? Bahnsen spent his life doing exactly that. Teaching school, writing philosophy, living with the full weight of his own conclusions. Not collapsed, not raging, just clear. Here is what knowing Bahnsen actually gives you. When a conflict in your life refuses to resolve, you stop asking why it won't resolve. You ask, what is the conflict producing that I can use? Every great work of art was produced by a will tearing against its own limitations. Every scientific breakthrough was a will tearing against the resistance of existing knowledge. The tearing is the engine of everything worth producing. The people in your life who seem unbreakable, they are not people without conflict. They are people who found a use for the conflict. They converted the tear into motion. Bahnsen's framework gives you permission to stop pretending the conflict will end. That permission is more energizing than any motivational speech ever written. What you can do today, take the most persistent conflict in your life. Instead of writing it as a problem to solve, write it as a source of energy. What does it push you toward? What does it force you to develop that a peaceful life would not? The philosophy, Bahnsen is not asking you to enjoy the tearing. He is asking you to stop being surprised by it. Surprise is expensive, acceptance is free, and clarity is the cheapest form of power available. The people who collapse under pressure are not the weakest people. They are the ones who were given the most comfortable lies and then met reality unprepared. Bahnsen prepared himself by looking at the worst possible account of reality and deciding, if this is true, then I will be the kind of person who can carry it. That decision is available to you right now. You are not learning Bahnsen to become darker. You are learning him to become harder to break. Every culture you have been inside told you positivity is strength, optimism is resilience, dark thinking is a symptom of something wrong. Bahnsen's life is evidence against that story. He saw the darkest possible picture of reality, more clearly than almost anyone in the history of philosophy, and he taught school and wrote and lived for 51 years without collapse. The optimists who saw only the bright side, many of them broke the moment the darkness they refused to see arrived. Their positivity was not strength, it was a debt. Darkness, honestly inhabited, produces a different kind of person, not a sad person, a prepared one. There is an enormous difference. Bahnsen is not asking you to be miserable, he is asking you to be accurate. Accuracy is the foundation that optimism skips. And foundations are what matters when the structure is tested. What you can do today. Find one thing in your life you have been framing positively because the accurate framing was too uncomfortable. Write the accurate version. Not to suffer, to build on solid ground. The philosophers this channel covers were not broken men. They were the most honest ones. And in a world that rewards comfortable lies, honesty is the most radical act available to you. You found this video. That is not an accident. It is the will tearing in the right direction for once. You have spent your life being told the conflict would end, that the universe was tilting in your direction. That meaning was available if you just aligned yourself correctly. The old you is dead. The version that kept expecting the conflict to resolve. That kept waiting for the universe to cooperate. That kept performing peace instead of building it from the actual materials available. You are a weapon, pointed at your own future. And Bahnsen has just shown you that the weapon runs on conflict, not on calm. Stop trying to be calm. Start being accurate. You belong to no one, not to the optimism industry, not to the positivity culture, not to the comfortable lie that the universe is building towards something good on your behalf. Bahnsen died in 1881, unknown and unread. He looked at the worst possible account of reality, and he did not flinch, and he did not perform, and he did not soften it for anyone, including himself. You are still here. That means you can do the same. Julius Bahnsen is the most unknown important philosopher who ever lived. He had no followers, no school, no movement. He just had the argument, and the argument is still standing. This channel covers the philosophers they buried, not because darkness is good, because accuracy is, and the accurate ones were always the ones they buried first. If Bahnsen changed something in how you see your own conflict today, subscribe, not as loyalty, as a signal to the algorithm that this kind of thinking deserves to exist in the world. Next in this series, Al-Ma'ari, a blind Syrian poet from 1000 AD who called every religion a fraud, refused to eat animals, and is the most dangerous philosopher you have never heard of. And now, the only question that matters for the comments. Bahnsen said the conflict never ends and the tearing never stops. So, what is the conflict inside you right now that you have been calling a problem? That might actually be the most honest thing about you.